Yeah, I think for me, I was pretty shy and introverted as a child, and smoking cannabis made me a little bit more extroverted and more talkative, more comfortable in my skin. To say, especially as a 15, 16-year-old.
But you know what? Like I realize that for myself too. Like sometimes I have like social anxiety.
Yes.
And like if I smoke a little weed before an event, then next thing you know, I'm like social Sally and you can't shut me up. So
Exactly.
I quickly realized that, but I couldn't like put the words on it for like many, many years until I became an adult. And I was like, oh, so that's why I like to smoke weed at the party and not have a drink. Because weed is better for me and like helps me be more social. But I also am still like 100% me.
Yes.
You know, and I'm not like out of it and I won't like throw up on somebody or something like that.
Exactly. I know if you'll hungover the next day.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, okay, you're a mom. You have your 2 kids.
Yeah.
We already talked about this. You have a girl and a boy.
Yeah.
So, at any point did you say to yourself, okay, I'm a mom now. I have to like stop with this weed shit?
Never.
Like, I gotta be serious now. I'm a mama.
No. I mean, I think after the first one, there may have been certainly while you're breastfeeding, I didn't smoke, even though I think it's kind of BS. You can't because they just haven't done enough research on it.
I did,
whatever.
and let me tell you, it helped me a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. 1,000%. So with my first kid, I stopped. I didn't consume while I was pregnant. I didn't consume while I was breastfeeding. So that was like 2 years of no weed.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. 2 year tolerance break. Who does that?
Wow. So you breastfed for a long time.
I breastfed for 15
I did that.
months,
Oh my
and
gosh. Good for
like,
you.
I was like, I have to stop breastfeeding because I want to smoke weed again.
Yes.
And that's the only reason why I stopped. And so with my second kid, I was like, I think that's kind of silly that I stopped breastfeeding to smoke weed.
Yeah.
So I ended up breastfeeding my second child for 24 months.
Wow.
And I used 25 months, sorry. And I used cannabis for 24 of those 25 months.
Amazing.
And I always say I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't smoked weed.
Right.
Yeah. Weed like helped with the breastfeeding so much because it's really hard.
And painful.
Like your nipples are sore. Like you get touched out. And then like you don't want to be like with your partner because it's like you stop touching me because this baby is grabbing on me. And like, but like instead I was just like, this is beautiful. Like how lucky am I to be able to do this? Like how lucky am I to have this baby? And weed helped me kind of really be more present for that. And I look back at that time and I'm like, thank God for weed because I was there for it. Like I was really there for it. And like my baby loved every moment. And it was like the weaning was super easy and everything.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's all because of weed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's most messed up about it, being illegal federally and being what's it, Schedule 1 drug is that there's been no research directed to the effects of cannabis.
And so all they say is no.
Exactly.
Don't do it.
It's just so ridiculous because you can have a glass of wine while you're pregnant and breastfeeding and pumping and dumping. I mean, there's lots of ways people can do it.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm sure it would help. Especially, during pregnancy, the nausea.
Yeah. I never had that.
No, you're lucky. Yeah, very lucky.
You're lucky.
Mine wasn't so bad when it comes,
Yeah, first trimester?
Yes. Yeah. Mostly.
Well,
yeah. But I mean, I still consume. So there was a period maybe where I slowed down after the first one.
Yeah.
And there was a pandemic and there's just so much stuff going on. So we had left the city for a little bit. But now, it's something I certainly need to just get through.
With a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, absolutely.
I need just to get through the week, in all honesty.
Are you still potty training or potty?
No, he's done. He's amazing how early. Because the preschool would not take him unless he was potty trained, and he
that
started
is a
at
thing.
preschool this fall.
You're going to preschool,
so we had no choice.
We're gonna work it out.
We had no choice.
Thank goodness for weed.
Yeah. So it's definitely, typically I smoke when they go to bed, but there are certainly days where I take a half edible or smoke some vape pen if we're going to like the museum, or if we're going out somewhere, the movies, or if, whatever it may be.
You know the tricks.
Because, I'm realizing, and there is so much stigma still around consuming cannabis, and even being new to the industry, there was just a stigma that I still held in terms of like how I communicated to my friends and strangers about the work that I do, the industry that I'm in, and that's kind of evolved over the last year and a half. But I'm just realizing that smoking a little bit of cannabis is no more different than smoking or drinking a glass of wine, rather. And in many, actually, it's much healthier because there's actually a medicinal benefit to cannabis. There's not a medicinal benefit to alcohol, and no one's lives have been ruined. And, certainly off track. Maybe their lives have gotten off track, but no one has been killed or murdered because of cannabis. Alcohol certainly has destroyed many, many lives.
And it's documented.
Yes. Many, many, many lives. I'm sure most of us know an alcoholic or have one in our family, and it's no joke, right? Yeah. So it's, realizing that I'm giving myself more permission to consume cannabis, right? Like, I can have a little bit of, smoke a joint or a vape as opposed to drinking a wine, or sometimes, I do a little bit of both, but it's like there really is no difference.
Yeah. What was your journey like with that, like kind of confronting that stigma? Because you're like, you notice it within yourself. I think that weed really helps you to kind of get to that point where you're like, hey, why am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
What's that like?
So,
how did you confront that stigma and make it, like, especially working in the industry?
Yeah, I have to say, for me, it was super easy because for our first dispensary, the owner is actually the Doe Fund.
Okay.
And so we're not the license holder in any of these dispensaries. We partner with license holders. Mm-hmm. And so the Doe Fund is actually the owner. And so 51% of all the proceeds from this dispensary are being redirected towards.
And let the folks know what the Doe Fund is.
The Doe Fund. The Doe Fund has been around for over 34 years. They're a not-for-profit organization that helps to support formerly incarcerated and formerly homeless Black and brown men primarily. Mm-hmm. They've probably served over more than 30,000 men now to date here in New York City. And I'm sure most folks know of the Doe Fund because they've seen Black and brown men, like Black and Latino men, sweeping the streets in these blue jumpsuits.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
There's definitely some controversy around the work that they're doing. Mm-hmm. But for many of these men, I know many, many of them, this has been their saving grace. This is what's helped them transition into permanent jobs and permanent housing. The Doe Fund provides transitional housing and paid employment, supportive services. And 75% of the people that work at the Doe Fund are actually graduates of the Doe Fund, which is very, very telling. But it really has saved people's lives and helped them reconnect with their families and their children, which is very meaningful. So 51% of the proceeds from this one location in Union Square is redirected toward the Doe Fund, which is, I don't know of any other for-profit business venture that can say that they're redirecting 51% of their profits to a not-for-profit, right?
Yeah.
So that was always, and that I realized when I was telling people, because my daughter had just started kindergarten when we started the company. Mm-hmm. She was in a brand new school, like this very, it's definitely not elite because it's a public school, but it's a very prestigious school. It's hard to get into. It's for really smart kids, and parents are like super, OCD about everything, which is very annoying. But I initially, when I would describe what I do, I say, we have a cannabis dispensary in the city, but we're redirecting. I had to jump right into, but the Doe Fund's the owner, and they're benefiting from all the amazing work that we're doing. And now I just say, I run a few cannabis dispensaries, and I don't have to put the caveat, or I don't have to put the you know what I mean?
Try to make it like, oh, well, also,
it's
I'm not just selling drugs.
Exactly. And now I don't feel the need to qualify it. That's the word. I don't feel the need to qualify it. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised about how most folks have really embraced it and haven't had a negative reaction. There certainly are some that do, but most folks overall are just super excited. I think a lot of people, especially folks of color, are probably more excited. Because they see someone who's Black benefiting economically from this industry, which is what the whole purpose of the industry is supposed to be and kind of was supposed to be here in New York. I don't know how much more hopeful I am that it will benefit Black people, but that was always the goal. That was what attracted me to working in this industry in the first place, was the intent behind the legislation, giving people of color and giving women opportunities to build generational wealth in this industry.
Is it possible, though, to build generational wealth in this industry? Do you think so?
I definitely think so.
Yeah?
Our business is doing really well, but I have amazing partners. I think what's not possible, which is what I keep saying over and over again, is you cannot legislate away 400 years of structural racism with one bill. And think it's going to be possible to give Black people opportunity because you wrote it in a piece of legislation, right? It's so much more complicated than that.
Yes.
And, you know, the sad thing is there are very, very few Black folks benefiting from the legalization of cannabis here in New York State.
New York's not the only state.
Yeah. We had attempted here in New York to develop the most progressive program, which I think we did in many regards, and there are some success stories. But most folks overall are really struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Many people will be in worse off situations than they were before they even got the license, which is
why is
the
that
most depressing
the prices? Like, is it too expensive to even, to have skin in the game? People say like to open a dispensary you need $1 million. Is that true?
We spent a lot more than that, but that's because, remember, we're giving away 51% of profits in every single one of our locations.
Oh, every single one?
To the license holder.
I love that.
So we have to do a large volume business. We have, prime locations. There's different ways of doing it, but even with the high tax rates.
What's the tax rate?
So it's, you can't write off any business expenses because it's federally illegal. So we're paying, I think, around 30%, which is really, really high. So with the high tax rate, it's almost really impossible to make a profit here in New York unless you are building a business that's, at a higher scale, a larger scale. You can't do like a mom and pop shop and do like 5 million, 10 million a year and expect to make a profit because you're paying so much in taxes.
Wow.
Right. So you really have to do a high volume business. And I don't even know if the state realized that. So that's the additional challenge. But I think folks are just digging a hole for themselves financially because they're leasing spaces. They're hiring people, they're buying product, they're opening up a business, and the business is not giving them the types of returns that they expected it would. And some of the folks, the card license holders, the individuals with cannabis convictions who received this first group of licenses along with the not-for-profits, those individuals, some of them, there's actually only 10, have entered into loans with New York State to receive funding from New York State to cover the cost of leasing and designing and building out their dispensary.
Okay.
So they're on the hook for these really large monthly payments.
Oh, my God.
And they're seeing hardly any people come into their store. I mean, I hear stories of folks opening up in various different parts of the city and some of the 5 boroughs, seeing like 5 customers a day.
What?
Which, because there's so many illicit shops. So
I see them.
It's really, really difficult to stay afloat with the number of illicit shops that are out there.